back again with another chart logic video. It's the equity agent here, and I'm just going to kind of start off with some news that happened overnight that potentially affected our chart logic, um, and then lean into what I kind of saw within the opening 2 hours of the market, because we're coming up at 11:30 now, um, and yeah, so the main thing that occurred overnight that really kind of twisted the market a little bit, at least in the short term, was that the Bank of Japan decided to leave, or to kind of like not follow in everyone else's footsteps in terms of tightening their central bank rules and kind of like in precautionary measures of this potential recession is what they call it. But I mean, I realistically we're already in a recession, but that's, I guess, an opinion now, no longer factual or objective. But I'm not going to get into the semantics of the technicalities of recessions or not, and today at least. But what I did want to kind of get into, and what the effects of the Bank of Japan making a decision, definitely increased the value of the yen, and because of that, so did the value of gold run up pretty heavily, as we see here on gold. Um, for the day, we're up. It's up about a point, up 1.5% today on gold for the ounce against the dollar, and that was a huge move up, moving through the overnight hours and so on, based off that news as well, right? So if we get into what we have today on that candle, this grouping or this boxing here. So we have yesterday's, you know, chart logic that we talked about yesterday, right? This boop catching the move down or catching the bounces and so on, based on what was happening. And then what I did earlier today was I kind of noticed, this trend occurring here, where where we're having some continual downside or down pushing, just kind of following this trend as a form of resistance. And what I was looking for was potentially a move down back towards the lows of yesterday's session, or like the futures session, I should say, based on that news and some other things. But what it ended up looking like was that they went ahead and even went at, and it actually kind of did kind of the opposite, right? Um, and we saw in the initial minutes of trading, we saw a nice push down where I was assuming we were going to catch some moves to the downside, and I entered a small position looking to go short down here, as we broke out of this range, right? As we broke out of this kind of like box here, right? Moving to catch this down, and I was looking to really capture the move, maybe down closer towards, right, like closer towards this value here, maybe like within it, right? Kind of like deep within the future lows. It just didn't seem that it wanted to do that, so I was actually able to go ahead and close out the position. Obviously, it didn't end up hitting my initial plan to take profit, but I closed out the position after seeing these two candles here, these two 5-minute candles, right, where we have these two wicks to the bottom, and those wicks to the bottom kind of show that there's buying pressure down here that was pushing it back up, right? And what that told me was like, hey, this area right here that was acting as resistance is now acting as support. So at that point, I was able to, kind of try to remain agile, right, in that regard, and then see where I can catch the buys back up. Now, the question became, well, hey, how far up is it going to go, or where is it going to go even? And we know, and And because of that question and kind of the quick change in movement in the first 5-10 minutes of the market, I wasn't even really interested in putting on a second position at this point, right? I had taken the small win of the push down, and just kind of wanted to sit down and wait for the market to kind of give me some more information overall. And in hindsight, looking at it now, right, when I closed that position, it would have been perfect to just flip this position and then continue to ride it back up. So let's see as to where it makes sense or where it would have made sense for me to ride this position back up, right? So if we come here now and went ahead and we saw, this holds support actually here, right? If I can stretch it all the way across to here even, right? So we wicked all the way down, and even the 30-minute candle, the 30-minute candle, the first 30-minute candle held above the trend line. The mere fact that the body held above this, the whole body, as opposed to in this case where the body it just closed above the trend line, but it did have a full body, right? And where this scenario, this push up, capturing another 100 points almost exactly, pushing towards this range seems like what was the logical approach to catch that move forward. So if we look, again, looking at this in hindsight, just trying to gain insight and gain knowledge as to what generally occurs, what is possible, what is plausible, what is, kind of within the wheelhouse of possibility, so that, we can continue to take these insights and push it into the following day, the following week, the following month, and just get much cleaner and much stronger with the technical analysis, as well as understanding as to what's happening as it's happening, and then being able to further apply that, right? So again, looking at this in hindsight, we see double wicks, showing that plug at the bottom of the boat, right? I guess kind of stopping it from sinking. That's kind of the way I visualize it. So if I were to maybe let's try and maybe draw it out, I guess, right? So let's say this is the boat right here, right? This is a nice little canoe, right? And in this canoe, we have a bunch of water now, and then out of nowhere, we see there's a hole, right, at the bottom of this canoe, and this bottom of the canoe is now starting to leak water. We're sinking at this point, right? We're sinking, meaning in symbolism, right, that price is declining and price action showing that decline. What can happen? We can either plug the boat so that we can continue to sail and move on and kind of keep moving, or we're just gonna sink through it. And what these two candles right here show is that that's the plug at the bottom of the boat, right? Think of like a nail, maybe even, right, where the nail has the head, and then it has the prong sticking down for the actual attachment of what it's attaching to. And that's kind of what's happening here, where the buyers from these price levels amongst other price levels from previous days stepped in and decided that was going to be, actually maybe I should just go to a different time frame, was showing that, hey, that is going to be the bottom for the time being, right? And then look as a way to apply it, right? So if we continue to look through here and see, okay, once we hit the plug here, where did price run up to in that time period, right? And that's kind of what this orange line is sitting here symbolizing as that, because we could see where all of that was allowing me to be able to see where previous support was, after blocking here, showing a doji here, pushing that through, amongst several times of indecision in this range here, that the move up after showing the double on the 5-minute, and then the 15-minute has a huge bullish engulfing. That's a clear and beautiful sign now, right? Looking at this and saying, like, yeah, that's most certainly an opportunity to be able to capture a big move to the upside, right? And stay conservative within your take profits, and don't go too haywire or expect the insanity out of it, right? Because it is just another day We did have some news, but not too much market affecting news. It is again end of the year, coming into this winter season. Not so much volume is there on a day to day basis. So not expecting a large move. And then look, right? I just now noticed this as well. On the downside, we see the opposite scenario occurring here, where we have these two candles now on the 15-minute as opposed to the 5-minute before, where we have wicks to the top side, where we have a bullish wick, and then we have another wick here as a bearish wick on this candle that's showing, hey, we've reached our point of exhaustion, we're tired, it's time to take a nap. And then we see that push right back down, the 100 points or plus or so, or in this case for the Dow, 140 points or so, 150, 170 points of movement back to the downside, where it's now settling again along the trend line, right? So these are just some of the technical insights and some of the things that we can continue to look into and continue to keep at the forefront of our mind to become better technical analysts. So that's today's opening 30 or chart logic, I should say, sorry, from the equity agent. And I will see you all tomorrow. Have a good one, man.